So yeah, the ASMR thing. Well, I had it since I was a kid, but I didn't know what it was. And I didn't even question it. Like I enjoyed chocolate and that.
Hmm.
So I was just aware that certain sounds kind of zoned me out. It was kind of like a bit hypnotic or soporific. You just kind of gently snooze to them. It was very, very pleasant. Very tactile sounds, tactile, repetitive. Pencils, coloring pencils against paper, or just writing. But it was these were very specific things. So it wasn't just it had to be like graphite pencils. The sound of pages turning, whispering, all those kind of soft sounds that didn't really have any meaning to them. Or football stickers, I remember that was a big thing, and you know, kind of zoning out to the English football team with my brother competing with the panini stickers for that. And I think later on, when I started to get into stuff like let me think, Robert Ashley specifically, automatic writing, Alvin Lucier, not Alvin Lucier, sorry, Luke Fernardi. I mean, I like Alvin Lucier, but I wouldn't call Lucier's work ASMR driven. There's some other ones I'm trying to think of. Costin Mirianu. I had the same response to that kind of music, but I didn't make the connection. I didn't make those links, and I never had any kind of intellectual or theoretical response to that kind of music, even though it was heavily um, eulogized in theoretical terms. Like whole books on Ferrari and so on, and
Hmm.
or Robert Ashley especially. And I think it was only like when was it? 6 years ago. Someone asked me, "Are you prone to ASMR because all your films have those sections in it?"
Hmm.
And I looked it up and I thought, "Oh my God." Sort of this huge chunk of my life suddenly makes sense. And because my films had passages of it, but used unconsciously, really.
Yeah.
And in Fabric was the first time I did it knowing what I was doing,
Okay.
which is not always a good thing.
Hmm.
I think there was an innocence to how I did it before. And I kind of felt I really did it. I went sort of peak ASMR on that film, and said I remember when that film came out, there were a lot of references to Giallo cinema, and which was not my intention at all. I said no. I was looking at YouTube videos. Once I knew what ASMR was, I went straight to YouTube to look at these videos. And then this festival in London, the London Short Film Festival, noticing this ASMR aspect of In Fabric, asked me to do an ASMR short film, and by that point, I kind of felt, oh, really, I kind of, I kind of, I did it as far as I could in a way, but it was a commission. I had a bit of time on my hands, and I thought, well, why not? Why not try something different? Why not try to make it? Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Why not try to make it about ASMR rather than embody ASMR? Why don't we try and make it about the internet sensation that it is and voyeurism and go somewhere a bit darker, maybe into, wouldn't say a nightmare, but this uneasy um, arena to do with performance and voyeurism and so on.
Hmm.
So that's how it all ended up. Um,
And like to the average viewer cruising through ASMR on YouTube, um, how do you think this would compare if it was possible for them to sort of land on this by accident, looking for their regular ASMR fare? How does this film compare to other ASMR films on YouTube?
Well, I think the other ones do it so much better. I mean, that was part of the thing, really. I mean, I knew I couldn't compete. The the good ones are they're clearly done by people who are into ASMR. There's a lot of stuff by cowboys on there. You can kind of sense it, who are the ones who are really into it and who are the ones who are not.
Hmm.
Um, but I remember when I remember the commission. I was very very sort of hot and cold over it. Well, it was more cold, to be honest, because again, because I'd done it before and there was no money in it really. At least that was clear from the beginning. But I think what spurred me was they invited this ASMR expert, or not expert, but this practitioner who's a big YouTube sensation. And when she heard I was involved, she completely, you know, what's the word? Started laying into me, saying, I'm a bad influence on ASMR. So
Oh,
I think that kind of, I thought, right, let's be even, you know, why don't I just stay true to type in that case? Um, and I looked at this woman's work, and she's good. I mean, it was tempting for me to kind of, think the opposite, but she really knew her stuff. Um, but I think there's space for what she does and for what many people do. And again, this is I mean, there's sections of ASMR in this short film, but they're not long enough. I think good ASMR needs to last
hmm,
a long time. I mean, the good videos go on for like 20, 25 minutes,
right.
sometimes longer. Um, so really, I would say this is about people who are the practitioners of ASMR videos, and people watching it as well.
Yeah.
It was something quite interesting, especially using analog to look at this very digital phenomenon. Even though ASMR is nothing to do with digital, it's been there. It's probably been there for centuries. Just no one knew what it was. I'm sure Constable doing a painting might have triggered an ASMR response in someone sitting nearby, perhaps.
Well, and
Um,
spaces being created to give people a sort of transport people with sound, like in cathedrals and chapels and things like that.
well, yeah. I remember I used to work at the Victoria and Albert Museum back in 2000, no, 1999, 2000. And I used to go to Brompton Oratory for my lunch break. And sometimes there'd be choir practice, and just that wonderful reverberation around that building. Um, so yeah, no, I think well, it's hard to put into words sometimes, but
You mentioned that the
I think
film is analog. And I sort of noticed in the intro, especially with the freeze frames, this kind of retro feel, and then they come back in the dancing, and there's like nudity, and there's this total like sort of '70s expressionism kind of feeling, and how like that to me is like ASMR is so sort of cutesy mostly on YouTube, but I feel like the way your film portrays it, it's like it gets to the heart of kind of the emotional communication and transfer that's happening between viewers and creators with this media.
well, it was a much darker look at it.
Mm,
Definitely, I think there was something quite interesting for me taking very aggressive images, put to this very soporific audio, which
mhm.
is with the greatest respect to your music, but I love drones, like Shalom in Palestine, Lamont Young. Um, there is something very it just puts me into this different space, which I find very relaxing. So that combined with the whispers, I think that's what I was looking for. This kind of counterpoint. You have these images which are showing this kind of sexual aggression, even though it's staged.
Mhm.
You see afterwards it is a rehearsal for what this God knows what they're going to be doing. Um, so it's not like you know, it's not as dark as it implies. There was that, I wouldn't say Brechtian, but there was a safety net knowing that these are stills they're looking at after they've done that performance.
Mhm.
There was that kind of a review period when they're studying all that aggression between themselves. Um, but yeah, no, I think that was what I was after. Really, is just that kind of counterpoint. Um, Again, not to have, as you say, those kind of images which they've been done well enough on YouTube. I don't feel there's any, you know, there's no way I can't really go anywhere with it because it's been done before so well. I mean, I think another good example. Actually, you know what? That's it. It's all coming back to me now. Last year in Marienbad,
Hmm.
and that to me was an ASMR film, and that had. Have you seen it? Because if you haven't, I would strongly recommend it
I have not.
because the organ soundtrack reminds me a lot of your work.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it was this very lyrical, dreamlike interweaving of memories by Alan Rene. I think it was 1961 off the top of my head.
Okay.
Um, but black and white, organ soundtrack, voices whispering, people in a trance. Had no idea what it meant, but it just completely, yeah, I just loved the. I think I suppose what I'm after when I make films, I'm after the feeling I get when I watch certain films, which is this kind of very visceral transformation, which is what I get from music. I think good music transforms you. It's not about meaning specifically; it's just about your body chemistry being altered somehow.
Hmm.
Whether that's in a energizing way, whether that's in a soporific way. But I love how you can just put the needle on something and you just enter this other world and your body corresponds with that somehow. I think last year Marienbad had that very musical nature to it, which I guess I was trying to replicate with this short film.
And making a film that's about ASMR, I guess, is a context where there would be a lot of there would be a big gaze on the music for people. Like, what were the requirements that you had for the music? You said it was soporific, and I appreciate and share that for you. But what else?
uh, well, again, I think it was last year Marienbad. The more I think about it,
Hmm.
the organ just had the sound. I mean, what is interesting is most ASMR doesn't have music. Like if you go on YouTube, it is barren. It is
Hmm.
just a voice. It is just someone drawing. Oh wait, you know what? It's coming back again. It's not just last year Marienbad. It's also um, automatic writing, the Robert Ashley album,
Okay.
because that had an organ soundtrack. So again, and I don't know if it's this kind of ecclesiastical thing where there's this devotional element to it,
Hmm.
where is it the association we have with churches? I'm not sure, but yeah, now I'm thinking of these links, with automatic writing and last year Marienbad, which is quite interesting.
Huh. And
But yeah, I'd recommend those two to anyone. Um,
okay. The piece of music is like a long, non-repeating kind of wandering narrative. And does that influence your choices in editing, or is there any way? Um, how do you work around that?
well, if I remember rightly, we just put it on and it just worked by magic.
Yeah.
I don't think we edited to it. No, I don't think we edited your music. I think we just put it on and it was just one of those rare occasions in which you think, oh my God, this is just too good. Um, I was just going through on, I think it was a Bandcamp for
Mm-hmm.
work. Because I was looking for something with an organ. Um, then I remembered, I remembered and then yeah, I mean, it really, I couldn't imagine the film without your music or with something different. I mean, it really just because it wasn't just the drones, it wasn't just the texture. It just had, I think, some of the chords and that just had this kind of mystery to them, perhaps. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Maybe that's another element. It's just there's a mystery to ASMR. Why is this very um, nondescript sound bewitching me somehow? It's just someone peeling stickers off. Why is this having this kind of magic spell on me? Again, I think, yeah, I think the music just somehow just sat in that world so well, and I loved it when it repeats at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it seems like sound reaches us in this kind of vulnerable place, because maybe because we can't close our ears the way we can close our eyes. Um, and it's so much, the nature of the information is so different. I mean, it's sort of more emotional than it is informational, what we get from sound. And
oh, that's true, isn't it?
maybe, yeah. So, I mean, I definitely, when I watched, I feel like it's this kind of hesitant but gentle introduction, which supports both like this, like you said, kind of sleepily entering into that world and accepting it, but also supports the coming tension, in the sort of second third of the film.
I mean, it was definitely, it does work as this kind of, whatever you want to call it, this kind of meta approach to the internet and this repetitive nature and coming in and out of the virtual screen. But at the same time, I'll try to model it like falling asleep. You're entering this dream, and dreams can get dark quite quickly.
Hmm.
But I think just going back to music. I have this very sort of, like a pub theory that I think the, I think the visual, in a way, is the least evocative because there's so much information coming in.
Hmm.
Whereas I think the more the senses are challenged, the more they're reduced, the stronger the impact. So for me, the most evocative sense is smell.
Right.
Certain sounds I can certain not sounds sorry certain smells I'll smell them after maybe 30 years and you think, oh my god, I remember that smell from my childhood, and it
Hmm.
just brings back this whole it opens up this box of memories. And music is close to that. I mean, I think music is in between smell and vision
Hmm.
for me. I think, again, because you're not using your eyes, so you have to, your brain compensates for what you're not seeing. um So when I say music, I mean sound as well as music.
Yeah, it's like the limitations of the sense force you to reach out with your feelings, into whatever it is that you're
Exactly,
hearing or smelling. Huh.
exactly. Um, so yeah, I always, well, yeah, I respond to sound a
Hmm.
lot. Well, I think many people do. I'm not exceptional there. I mean, I think the ASMR, that is definitely, some people respond to it, some people don't. But I think the sound, I think everyone does. Well, it's interesting with the fabric. I think a lot of people mistook the ASMR as something sexual, and I mean, I'm sure there is some kind of subgroup within that who do respond to it in that way. Um, but mostly, it's just this kind of, just intensely relaxing, and you kind of zone out to it.
Yeah. Well, and like it's just so funny that you said soporific the first time you started talking about the music, because I'm been thinking about starting a sub label of organ music for sleeping, and it would be called Sopor Records. Um,
Ah, you should.
yeah. Okay. Last question: is Hungarian the best language for ASMR?
Um, well, we just did it because we were there, but
Okay.
um, for me, it's interesting because there's no meaning to it. Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, just 1 minute. I'll call you back. One minute.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
Hey.
All right, sorry. I have to go in a minute. It's just
Yeah.
all happening around here. Um, yeah, I used to put music on a lot, go to sleep too.
Hmm.
Maybe not so much these days, but my sleep is a lot heavier than it used to be. Because when I was younger, my sleep was somehow lighter, and
Hmm.
you could kind of the music could kind of work parallel with your sleep. Whereas now I just fall asleep and I don't hear anything, so it's kind of like no point. Um, but anyway, so you got a label. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool. Sleepy
Yeah.
stuff.
You were talking about Hungarian and you said it has no meaning. I was asking you,
Well,
yeah, if it's the
I,
best language for
I,
ASMR.
I mean, any language you don't understand. I think that's
Yeah.
what I should have clarified. I mean, because I did a piece years ago with my band. I had this band I was in. Um, we did a spoken word piece in Hungarian. It was people reading from medical texts and whispering from them. Um, and it worked for people who didn't understand Hungarian, whereas those who did, it was full of meaning, you know.
Right.
Whereas for people who didn't understand, it was just sound, it was texture, it was so I think that's what's interesting about ASMR is when it's just when someone speaks, it's just sound, it's not meaning.
So it
So
didn't
I'm
it
guessing
yeah, it didn't have to be Hungarian. That's just a circumstance.
circumstance, yeah, yeah. But I think it did help that it was in a language that most people outside of Hungary don't understand.
Mm.
But yeah, we just did it in Hungary. You know, I was based there. Um, Good locations, you know, and so on and so on. You know, I think everything kind of worked towards that.